Welcome to today's installment of One-to-One Women Coaching Women's Celebration Series. I'm Katie Albert, and I'm on the board of One-to-One, and I'm also a super fan of the incredibly bright and funny women joining me, our first honoree of 2024, Pam Busenius. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Katie.
So, just to explain to our audience, we want the celebration series to be an opportunity for you, for our whole community, to get to know the phenomenal women who make up our OTO community. And I'm thrilled today to be speaking with honoree Pam, who, as you get to know her, I think you'll agree, demonstrates so many aspects of the OTO journey. And over the years has played several roles in our very unique community. Pam is the founder of Synergy Business Support Specialist. She first came to One-to-One, however, way back in early 2015 as one of our very first caregiver clients. So, Pam, why don't we start there? You want to tell us a little bit about how you found One-to-One, or how we found you?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I believe it was the end of 2014. It might have been January 2015. It came through in our Elizabeth Dole Fellowship group that One-to-One was offering life coaching for caregivers. And I have been through some stress naturally because I'm a caregiver, and I just lost my mom, which is going to make me cry. But I needed some direction. I needed to figure out how to live in this life without my mom, because she was my one support person. And I signed up. Oh, excuse me. I signed up, and I was like a little apprehensive because, one, I'd never done anything like this before. Something that was strictly for me and my benefit was in the caregiver community. If you've ever had to be a caregiver, you completely understand that if it comes to something about you, it's on the very bottom of the pecking order. So I was actually being intentional with time for myself. I was paired with an amazing coach, Penny Hazen, and her words still resonate with me today. All these years later, let's see, that'd be 9 years now. And those words still resonate with me so many times. And I kind of hear her voice in the back of my head sometimes, reminding me to put myself first, to focus. There's just so many wonderful things that came out of that. But through that, I figured out where I needed to focus for myself, how to, still focus on my family and my caregiving role without losing myself in the process. I really think that it was through One-to-One's help in that area that I was able to branch out and make some really solid friendships outside of my own household, because we tend to get isolated when we caregive. And that doesn't help our mental health. So, thankfully I made amazing friendships that I still have to this day, and they're stronger than ever. But I don't think I could have done it without the help and the confidence that Penny provided me during that very tough first year without my mom. And yeah, it's hard to say exactly what to say, because it was so impactful that I've never, ever forgotten those feelings. And I was so sad when our sessions ended, but I also wanted everybody else in the world to know how amazing this opportunity was for myself. And I did share it with others. I made sure other people knew about it. We'll get to that.
I know I was going to say, you just touched on so many things that I want to into. And first of all, of course, thank you for sharing all of that with us. I know how hard it is, and I can feel that from you. And I know from knowing other caregivers who are caregivers of military veterans specifically, not to sideline any other type of caregiving because it's all so hard in its own way, and they all have their own dynamics. And yet I know that when it's for veterans who've they're so often it's very unpredictable, and so it makes it very hard for the caregiver. And especially, I know you had a child at the time as well, right?
I had two teenagers that I was homeschooling on top of everything else. So yeah, we just kept adding more and more on.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
fortunately,
taking time for yourself is like probably you needed Penny, you needed a coach maybe to tell you it's so important. It's the most important thing. It's the old adage of putting on your oxygen mask before you put it
exactly.
on others around you. And I know Penny, I feel like in a way we get to take this moment to honor Penny as much as you, because I know what a great coach she was. And she was one of the founding coaches of One-to-One, and she'd really been with One-to-One from the very beginning, and has played a number of roles in this organization. So I'm actually love to hear that she was your coach. That's really special. And so when you think about, and then to lose your mother while you were going through all of that already, I'm sure she was sort of a caregiver for you, or a stable, a resource for you as well. To lose that, I think a lot of people, maybe One-to-One is a good thing to have this moment to realize it can step in when important relationships disappear for some reason, or when you feel like you can't navigate a big change. It sounds like you were going through several changes. So yeah, can you I'm trying to figure out which one of those things to go back into. So talk about when you were coaching with Penny, was it you coached with her for about 6 months or so? Is that right?
Yeah, it was 6 months. I believe it was every other week, which I think is, about the norm. So, but usually it's just a phone call every other week, about an hour, and it's that 1 hour. There was one day, it was absolutely the perfect spring day here in Georgia. It wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, it was perfect sunshine. And I remember sitting outside on the phone with her because I could relax. I could actually take a deep breath. My kids knew that I was on a phone call, and I would come back inside when I was done. And I was left to my own devices to talk and have that freedom to, spill my guts if I needed to, or cry if I needed to, whatever the case was. But I mean, it wasn't one of those things where I cried all the time. In the beginning, it was harder because I was dealing and spewing all of those emotions out of me. But the more we talked and the more we set goals and, thought about what I want and where I want to be and who I want to be, that it went from being an emotional experience to just so positive that I felt hopeful again.
Yeah,
It,
it's beautiful.
it's one of those times in your life when you just don't know where that next fragment of hope comes from. And, when we finished our 6 months together, I've just felt so positive in who I was becoming finally at 40 something years old that I wasn't worried about what came next.
Wow, it's amazing. So jumping a little ahead, because then you were working on your own and living on your own and making changes and facing your own, new sets of challenges, I imagine, for all those years. And I happen to know that you came back into our lives in mid 2021 in July, when we decided as an organization to offer. We were starting to work on a new workshop that we were going to offer to the public and to past clients and donors and sponsors and people, anybody in our community, called Life by Design. And you were one of our early guinea pigs, and actually it wasn't a new program, but it was one we were reintroducing. And I'm joking about the guinea pig part, but we decided to offer it to all of our alumni clients. And we had a special group for caregiver clients, so they would all be in a, in one group together, and you signed up for that, right? So can you tell us a little bit about what was going on in your life at that point?
Well, in July of 2021, typically the information came out in probably early June because it was about a month beforehand. I had been separated for 3 years at that point in time because, life, caregiving, PTSD, all of that plays a role in everybody's life. And it just got to that one point. And so in the spring of 2021, I decided I needed to be able to support myself. I haven't supported myself in, 15 plus years because I was a caregiver. And I decided through the help of another caregiver that I have all these skills. I have all this, 21 plus years of administrative, skills just sitting there. So we harnessed those into a virtual life. And I started a virtual assistant business for myself. I had one little client in July of 2021, and I'm like, okay, now how do I set some goals? Now what do I do? And Life by Design came by. And that opportunity allowed me to focus on how I wanted to, the goals I want to set, not just for my life, but for my business. Because if I can set some positive business goals, then I can have the life I want. And so with the help of Fran, I started the Life by Design. I want to say it was Fran and Debbie, but I can't be 100% sure on that. We started the 4-week program, an hour and a half on a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of the summer. And we didn't have to set, goals for any particular part of our life. That was up to us because everybody has a different, path that they're on. So all of my goals had to do with my business. How am I going to be successful? How am I going to take myself from where I'm at right now with my $900 a month client to have the life I need to live to support myself? Because I can't rely on, and outside anybody else. I need to rely on myself now. And the Life by Design was amazing. I still refer back to my pamphlets and my printouts and my PDFs. I have a whole file folder from that I was sent to get started. My index cards, everything. I have them all. They're at my fingertips constantly because there are times when I'm like, wait a second. I think this was on one of my goals. I think that this is part of one of my goals. Let's, and so I still tweak them. Sometimes I have to go back and go, okay, well, that's not really working out for me. So what do I want to do next? Let's, I don't cross anything off, but I'm like, okay, so here's one goal. This isn't working as well. So let's branch off and how can we make this better? And I learned a lot through that. Needless to say, it has really helped me transform my business from where I was then, still needing to make enough money to support myself, to where I am now, completely independent financially. I'm buying my very first house, and there's just no ends to my possibilities because of the actionable steps that were given through Life by Design, and which in some respects goes back to the actionable steps I was given in 2015 with Penny. The things that we're continually building upon to better my own life and to create my own happiness and the life I want.
Yeah, just so to explain to people that Life by Design is a workshop that totals about 6 hours usually. And at the time we offered it only in the 4 sessions. That's what you did, one week session, one session every week, and in a group format. And now we offer it in sort of slightly different permutations as well as that one. But what I love about it, I've facilitated it. I wasn't in that session, but I know you were with such great coaches at the time. I'm so glad that they entered your life then. But it's usually typically about 10 different self-coaching tools. So that there are things that you can pick and choose from depending on wherever you are and what you're doing, what you're working on, and which one suits you at that moment. So I'm kind of curious to ask you, do you have a favorite tool of all of those tools that you think you use the most?
Okay. I love the ladder of powerful speaking, but I use the tree a lot, and I can't remember what the tree is. But
I would just call it the action planning tree.
there, and I know that, but
Yep.
the action planning tree, that's the one that I look at. Here's this is my goal. Here's my steps, and then here's more steps. And I never, it's like I said, I don't cross a step off. I don't look at this one branch and go, well, that branch is dead and gone. I just kind of look at it and go, okay, well, let's add a little more to it because there's something missing in this grand scheme here that I want to achieve. I'm missing all the little steps that go into it. So I kind of break it down. And sometimes there's little branches off of branches and twigs off of branches and a lot of leaves. But that has been probably the best one because I catch myself sometimes if I don't have, my scratch paper, I see it and how I plan things out now. I use that action planning tree as I'm planning things, as I'm making changes. If I'm working with another one of my clients, I sit down and go, okay, this is what we want to achieve. How are we going to do it? Let's break it down. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that one too. I think it's the best way for me. It's such a good way to start a project, to really just to figure out when it feels very noisy and overwhelming or confusing. Like there's a lot of different directions you might go. It really helps you break it down into its parts. And then also what I love about the roots is it also reminds you not to do it alone, to think about who can help. And, you don't have, it's really the whole lesson of just because it has to get done doesn't mean you have to do it yourself. So I love that one too. And what I love about all of these tools is that they're really just for people to work on their own. Doesn't keep you tied to the organization, to your coach. We're not trying to sell anything. It's really about saying, here's a tool, here's actually 10 tools. And, think about how you want to navigate things and what's the first step? What's the next step? It's just breaking it down to its parts, which is, just basic project management, but, through the lens of, something you can write on or something you can look at with somebody else. I love that you use it with your clients. That's really I feel like that's the best testament to if it works in other, in other communities with other networks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. And I mean, like clients, of course, will use different software programs for project management, but I still break it down in the exact same way. So, one of my clients were in ClickUp and I was like, I break it down and, she chuckles at me and I was like, oh, this is just, it's like a tree. We're just building on some, foundation here and going to keep going out and branching out. And she loves it because she knows that that's how I think and that she can look back and go, okay, well, this is where we're at. This is where our end goal is. And
yeah, one of the things I love about Life by Design, there's a couple of coaches I know, maybe even the founder of One-to-One, who says she doesn't like that tool, but she loves the other tool. And what's great about Life by Design, because that is my go-to tool as well, Pam. I use it all the time. So I couldn't fathom it not being everybody's favorite, but she has other favorites, and she likes to teach on those and share those, and she loves the ladder. She like coaches on the ladder and the 3x5, using 3x5 cards. All of them I think just work together really beautifully. But I love that people, what I love about Life by Design is that it's just you get so much, and you can choose which, choose your own adventure, basically, see which one works for you.
Yeah.
So that was back in 2021. And since then, you've come back. Oh, I think we've missed an essential chapter also in your one-to-one journey, because earlier you were talking about how you have told other people about one-to-one. I know there's one in particular we like to talk about. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. It came about in the Dole Fellows group again, that one-to-one was offering more life coaching for caregivers. I don't remember what year that was, to be honest. It was probably somewhere before 2021. And I made a comment on there about what a wonderful opportunity this is for any caregiver that needed a little help, finding some direction, finding some peace, coming to terms, especially like a newer caregiver that was having struggles coming to terms with, is this my life? Because it's hard. It's not easy. So I, of course, put down this glowing recommendation about how everybody should try this. This is I got so much out of it. It was so wonderful. I mean, it's just so hard to put it all into words right now, but so I put that in the group. And I had a couple of people that I know because of what I said, went and got some coaching from one-to-one during that second round there. And I still hear about it every once in a while. I was like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
And it feels good that somebody actually takes your recommendation and runs with it. So I do like that. I do appreciate, it's nice to hear when people say, yeah, if it wasn't for you, I would have never done this, and I would have never gotten where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So,
And right. I mean, when you were talking about even starting your business, I was thinking about how so many of the skills you have as caregivers sort of translate to the kind of work you're doing, but it's sort of, you're not getting heralded for that, acknowledged for that. Maybe you're not, it's just, you're just getting by. It feels like work you're doing to just get by, whether that's interfacing with a VA or, I know you've done some work with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation as doing advocacy. There's so many things you're doing that feel like they're soft skills, but they're actually quite translatable. And I happen to know that one of the people who took your recommendation for getting coaching from one-to-one is currently the president of the board of one-to-one, Carrie Fisher. So I think that, as much as I know I can hear in you the gratitude you have for one-to-one, and I'm grateful for one-to-one for so many things myself, but I know that we are grateful to you for all of those referrals. None of them are more important than any of the others. But of course, Carrie is a very close friend and colleague, and has herself had this incredible arc of being a caregiver client and joining the board, and then now being the chair of the board, or the president of the board. So that, that is, I think, what we really keep seeing with one-to-one is the arc, or the cycles, of people playing different roles. And I think it's one of the things that we haven't touched on quite yet is that you're currently a pro bono, you have a pro bono role doing the work you do for your clients, for us, and working with me on the group coaching programs, developing that program, developing all the systems and the guides that we're using. And I am so grateful to you for that. So that's one of the beautiful things about one-to-one, is this sort of, it's like this cycle that keeps feeding itself. So
yeah. Because it's so funny, because Carrie took my recommendation and got coaching, and is now the president of the board. And then Carrie comes to me and asked if I'd be interested in working, using some of my skills to kind of help out on a volunteer basis. And I was like, well, this is just so full circle here. But I can't think of any other another better way to volunteer some of my time than to give back to an organization that's given me so much for so long.
Oh, well, we are so grateful. And, it is the other thing that I think it's important to say here and always, that a lot of times women who come to us for coaching, there's sort of this label, whether they're a caregiver client or a traditional client, and it can almost erase all the details because we have to give that one label. But all of you are these incredible women who have overcome incredible challenges, are smart and have credentials and licenses, and are working to start a business or grow a business. And Carrie's one of those people with multiple graduate level degrees. And all of a sudden this thing happens in your life that forever changes your life. Somebody comes home wounded and you have to drop everything and stop having a career and just take care of them. So what I love hearing, and I really appreciate you sharing with us, is the role that one-to-one coaches play in helping you reclaim your life and choose what you want next. And I really thank you for sharing that with us.
Well, I'm happy to share that. It's been such an amazing journey. And I mean, I didn't even realize that it's been almost a 9-year journey now. But it has been an amazing journey. And I do like what you said about reclaiming my life and reclaiming my little role in this world. And it's vital. We all need to do it, whether you're a caregiver or just a regular woman out there on the street doing whatever, working hard, doing what you need to do. Everybody needs to be able to reclaim some part of their life. And there's so much pressure on women to do and be, achieve, and hold all these hats that we kind of tend to lose ourselves in the aspect of life. And the hardest hat to wear is the caregiver hat. And while it's not so much to distinguish one from another, but that caregiver role can take it takes so much more out of us than even just being a mom or a wife. We lose so much more of ourselves as a caregiver than I ever lost as a mom or a wife. And being able to find that one little thing, that one little glimmer to give you hope that you've still got something that you can give other than just this caregiver role or wife role or mom role, that you're still a person with skills and goals and wanting more out of life than just visiting the VA on a weekly basis, or whatever the circumstances are. The one thing that I have always appreciated is that every time I've worked with one-to-one, the fact that, especially when they're working with caregivers, the fact that they are working with caregivers, there's a lot of grace involved because the caregiving journey can be so unpredictable. So if you can't make something, we understand that, life is going to throw you some curveballs. And if you just update, communication. And I'm a huge person on communication. I believe in over communicating, not in an inappropriate way, but I just believe that you need to communicate, because you can't make plans or goals or anything if you're not communicating with other people. That communication aspect can make it so much smoother as you're going through that, hey, I have a caregiver crisis going on, or, we've got a caregiving crisis going on. I can't be here for my call today. That your coach is going to understand that. And that's the key there, is that communication, and making sure that then when you do get to communicate with your coach, being able to say, okay, I need to decompress this out of my system real quick. and you get, here's what happened, this is what's going on, without going, you don't have to give a lot of details, you don't have to overdo, but to say, this is what happened, this is where we're at, and this is how I feel. Your coach can help so much just to get you through it, to process it. There's so many things that that aspect of being able to get it out of your system so you can process it. And sometimes just being able to hear somebody else go, hey, I totally get it. I think you did an amazing job. Next time you could do XYZ, because, some little aspect, because we all forget things. We all forget as we're going through a situation that there's one thing that we could have done that would have smoothed it out just a little bit easier. And when you hear that, and sometimes just that you did good, great job, is important, because we don't hear the caregivers.
Yeah, you can forget. Sorry. Okay, coughing fit has been dealt with, and we're back. Sorry about that, Pam. Well, I appreciate that, and I know it is the beauty of the coaching engagement is when somebody's always there to hold the space for you, and for you to, not to feel like you have to go and you're not ready, but also to say, A, great job, and then B, okay, knowing you best, knowing your situation best as only you do, where do you want to go from here, right? And really keeping you focused on you through all of that, and not just always being in react, because caregiving is just, I think, a lot of reacting to situations.
Yeah,
it can be that if you don't have that, get a little bit above it, right, to kind of see a little bit higher so you can see a little further out.
Above the baseline. That's what I always it as, is you've got to get above the baseline, because the baseline is just the existing. Above the baseline is, making positive changes. And if you go below the baseline, you're that depression and everything else can take over.
So, well, thank you for talking about that. I know it's really hard, and so many of us go through these things alone. And coaching is really, it's behind the scenes. That's part of what the Celebration Series is allowing us to do, is to give people a little peek behind the curtain. It is private, it is confidential, and we treat it always that way. And we get this incredible magnificence of 8 to 10 years of a runway with you, and the organization is entering its 20th year, and we have clients who've been in and around our, cycling through our world, and coaches who've been with us from the beginning. So it happens that you had two of those coaches. So if we could just take one quick second while we're honoring you, is there anything you want to say about or to your two great coaches who I know from what you said today were so important in your journey?
Oh, I could go on forever, because I got so much out of my initial coaching with Penny that I truly, truly felt that there was somebody just in my corner, that she was there just to be in my corner. She wasn't there to advocate for my spouse or my kids. She was just there for me. And I carry it with me constantly. I hear her words, and I think I'm living them. And it's just amazing. I can't even describe how it feels to know. Can't even describe the impact she's had on me that has continued all these years later.
That's beautiful.
Penny she was amazing for me, and she was the perfect coach for me at the moment. It was just perfect.
That's wonderful.
Fran and Debbie and Life by Design, that was just so amazing, because it didn't matter what we were focusing on individually. that everything she said can resonate through so many different aspects of your life, that her words, her 3x5 cards live with me constantly. I have all my cards from Life by Design. I have all my notes, and it sticks with me. I pull them out, I'm looking for them. I'm like, I still write cards. Well, I have a ton of 3x5 cards that I use for everything, but I still use her system for writing out cards as I'm doing things. And in fact, that was something my daughter and I just talked about, that with the new house, we got to make some plans. And I'm like, let me get my 3x5 cards.
That's great. That's great. So thank you so much, Pam. I feel so grateful for you taking this time with me today, for your help in all the things that we work together on and collaborate on, and all the sidetracks that we go on together about everything other that has nothing to do with one-to-one or coaching sometimes. But I just, I love you. I trust you. I think you're just such an inspiration. So thank you for letting us celebrate you today.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be honored, and I'm honored to be able to share my experiences so others can benefit, and the organization as a whole can benefit from it, because it's amazing. It's a wonderful.
It is. And so, with that said, from one to one, we thank you for joining this conversation today. I found it so uplifting, and a reminder that in this community, you're never alone. There's always a person, a confidant, a resource, and an opportunity to create and lead the life you love. And so, as a reminder to anybody else who hasn't gone on this journey, or maybe wants to revisit coaching with one to one, or being a coach for one to one, or supporting our work, you can go to our website, www.1to1women.org. And if you haven't subscribed, we hope you mash that button to follow us and support the life-changing work of one to one. Thank you so much.